Hello, today I'm going to be reviewing the Phanteks NV5, which is currently available and on sale. In the UK it's going to set you back just under £85 for the black version and just under £95 for the white version. And yes, I have double checked the price, it is right. It seems far too cheap for a case that looks this good, so let's dive in and take a closer look at it. To remove the tempered glass side panel, there's two captive thumb screws at the back. Once these have been loosened, the panel can be pulled backwards, lifted out and away. Taking a look at the other side panel, you'll notice it has an area of perforation indicating that we're going to be able to side mount fans and radiators in the case. This panel is removed in exactly the same way as the tempered glass panel. Taking a look at the back of this panel, you'll notice there's no separate dust filters and Phanteks are going with just mesh on this case. While not essential for the build, it is possible to remove the front tempered glass panel to give you better access during the building process. It's held on with two screws at the side, and once these have been removed, you can slide the tempered glass panel to the side and then pull forward to remove. With both the tempered glass panels removed, you can see that the case is still pretty rigid and you don't need to worry about it bending during the building process. In terms of our front I/O, we've got a power button. We've got two buttons, one for mode and one for colour for controlling the case's built-in ARGB controller. We've got a single USB Type-C port, two USB Type-A ports and a combined headphone and microphone jack. To remove the top panel, we've got two captive thumb screws at the back we need to loosen, then the panel can be pulled backwards and lifted up and away. Again, taking a look at the back of this panel, there's no separate dust filter. Taking a look at the case from the front, you'll notice it has a similar design to its bigger brother, the NV7, with the bottom of the case on an incline. Although this incline has less of an effect on the inside of the case because the power supply shroud is at the bottom and it is straight, and also the bottom fan mounting bracket is also straight and not angled. In terms of the bottom fan mounting bracket, on it you're going to be able to mount a single 120mm fan, and it is removable. There's a single screw at the back you need to remove, and then the bracket can simply be lifted out. At both the side and the top of the case, you're going to be able to mount up to three 120mm fans or up to a 360mm radiator. It is important to say in the NV5, only 120mm fans. Our radiators in a multiple of 120 are going to fit, so you can't fit 140mm fans or 280mm radiators. At the rear of the case, it's up to a single 120mm fan or radiator. If we take a closer look at the power supply shroud at the bottom of the case, you'll notice it has a really nice ARGB lighting bar on it. You're going to be able to control the lighting effects on it and everything else in the case using the two buttons on the top of the case. One of the buttons is for cycling through the different modes in the case, while the other button controls the colours. It is possible to remove the front of the power supply shroud. First of all, you have to remove a thumb screw at the back, and then you can pull the front of the power supply shroud forward to remove it. One of the reasons you may want to do this is if you want to add additional cables into your modular power supply, this is going to give you good access to do this. And in the future, one of the options that Phanteks are offering for this case is a screen that can go on the front of the power supply shroud. You'll notice we've got a little cutout on the top of this panel, and this will be useful for passing additional cables through. As well, at the rear of the case, we've got a nice rubber grommet, which again will be useful for routing a HDMI cable to your graphics card from that screen. In terms of motherboard support, the case supports motherboards up to E8X in size, and if you want to go with a CPU cooler, the maximum height supported is 180mm. Installing an E8X motherboard isn't without its problems. In this case, you are going to have to remove the GPU support bracket to allow it to fit. If we take a look at the rear of the case, you'll notice that we've got 7 horizontal PCI expansion slots, and the bottom 3 of these are combined into a single bracket, making it look much cleaner. In terms of graphics card support, the maximum length supported is up to 440mm, and the maximum width is 170mm. As we've already mentioned, there's a really nice GPU support bracket included in the case, which does a great job of supporting the graphics card. It's good to see that we've got really large rubber grommets over the two cutouts to the right hand side of the motherboard. At the bottom of the case, we've got a full-length dust filter, which can either be pulled out from the front or the back. Moving into the rear of the case and towards the back, we've got a cable covered door, which can simply be opened up. It is possible to remove this cable cover door by simply lifting it up. On the back of this cable cover door is where you're going to be mounting all your drives, and you've got a choice of installing either 3 3.5-inch drives or 4 2.5-inch drives. In terms of cable management, this looks absolutely excellent. We've got some main cable raceways down the middle of the case and additional Velcro cable straps for your EPS cables over towards the rear. Cable routing space also looks to be really good. In terms of power supply support, the case does support full-sized ATX power supplies up to a maximum length of 230mm. There's no removable power supply bracket at the back, so you are going to have to install your power supply from the side before screwing it in from the back. And the back of the NV5 is much simpler than its bigger brother, the NV7. There's no removable door or cable routing clips, but it is good to see that Phanteks have included some Velcro cable straps to keep the cables coming from your motherboard and graphics card organised. So what I want to do now is give you a look at the build I put together in the case. Take a look at our temperatures. Our Ryzen 9 7900X being cooled by a 360mm AIO at the top set to exhaust, idled at 44 degrees and reached a maximum of 87 degrees during a 10-minute IDA64 stability test. Our ROG STRIX RTX 4080 idled at 29 degrees and reached a maximum of 64 degrees during the stability test. In terms of noise levels, we had an average of 34 decibels at idle and 52 decibels under load. So in terms of building in the NV5, it was really straightforward without any problems at all. Removing the front tempered glass panel meant you had great access during the build. I had no trouble at all routing any of the cables through from either the bottom or the top, even after I had installed the AIO and the fans in the case. And in terms of cable management at the back, this is some of the easiest that I have ever done in any case. So moving on to the things I liked about the NV5, and there is absolutely loads I like about this case. Starting off with the price, at £85, I can only think that Phanteks have made a mistake, because this is a budget price, but they've turned up with a premium case with loads of premium features. I think the ARGB lighting strip on the power supply shroud looks absolutely brilliant, and connecting all the ARGB up in this case is absolutely brilliant. You've got plenty of connectors at the back. It's easy to daisy chain more fans into it, and particularly if you're using Phanteks other products like their fans or their AIOs, you're going to be able to plug them directly into that hub and control everything using the buttons on the top of the case. I also love the fact that they haven't used a really dark tint on the tempered glass, so you're able to see your build through it. And you've got a nice seamless joint at the front and at the side, so it looks really good without a pillar there as well. The GPU support bracket does an absolutely brilliant job of supporting your graphics card, a really thick rubber pad on it, and it doesn't get anywhere near the fans on your GPU, which is great. In terms of the cables, it's great to see that the front panel connectors are organised into a single cable, and as I've already mentioned, the cable routing space and the included Velcro cable straps at the back of this case make cable management an absolute breeze. So moving on to the things I didn't like about the case, and I had to think long and hard about this to come up with something, but one thing I don't like about this case compared to the NV7 is the fact that there's no speed controller on the ARGB controller. I love these two colours together, and it was similar to what I set on my NV7 build, but on that build I was able to slow the speed of the colour change down so it was barely moving, and in my opinion it looked so much better. Now I do understand the NV7 is a £200 case, this is an £85 case, and if you compare the ARGB controller and the effects that you get with other £85 cases, this one blows every other case out of the water. So we've now reached the stage in the review where I tell you should you go out and pick up this case. So if we leave the price aside for the moment, the NV5 is one of the best cases that I have built in this year. If we bring price back into it, it's also one of the cheapest cases that I have built in this year, and those two things should really not go together. Phanteks, I have no idea how you've been able to put a case out that is this good, with this high a build quality, for this low a price. So putting all that together, if you're in the market for either a low, mid or high range case, this case absolutely ticks all those boxes. It looks absolutely brilliant, and you're getting it for a budget price. The only side issue would be the hidden cost of this case, and that is going to be in the fans. I think if you're going to want to go out and make the case look really good, you probably are going to get reasonably good fans for the bottom and the side. And these reverse fans that Phanteks do look brilliant, but they're not the cheapest fans on the market. So when you factor in the cost of filling this case with the 5 fans that I have installed in it, the price is going to be a bit more expensive. But you don't necessarily have to do that. You could go with more budget-oriented fans and it's still going to look really good. So I expect you'll be seeing this case again at the end of the year when I come to the best cases of 2023. I just need to decide if it's going to fit into the budget category or not, given that you're going to have to pay quite a bit of money for fans, but it's definitely going to be taking an award at the end of the year for something or other, because this case is just absolutely brilliant. So hopefully you have enjoyed this review. If you have, remember I have made a full step-by-step guide in this case, and I'll put a link to that video in the description, so if you plan to do a build, you'll be able to follow along to that. If you have enjoyed this review, remember to give it a thumbs up, and if you're not currently subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button as well. Thanks for watching.